Hi, this is Kat Chancellor with Stamp Art Connection and StampArtConnection.com. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and let me just go live for a minute and welcome anyone who is sitting around in their craft room and would like to join me for some stamping. If you're out there, please join me because I would really like to. I'd really like to hear from you. And what I want to do today, as I'm kind of going back and forth between my screens to make sure that everything's set up, is I hope you're well. I hope you're staying well. I know that there, certainly for me, there are some people that have been affected by this COVID-19, and I have a prayer ministry that we're just reaching out and praying for people who are affected. So I hope that all of you are well, and that we're praying for those families that may be affected. And let's hope that we get through all this and everything can kind of return back to our new normal. If you'll notice, my hair color is a little different because I actually went to a box color. This is what my hair color is. This is my natural hair color. So I can't wait to get back to my wonderful hairdresser and have her kind of like bring me back to my normal. This is not my new normal. This is my let's get through this. I've also been doing my nails, so they're not perfect, but they work for me. And you kind of have to keep up your maintenance plan. I've got Rocky in here. He's sitting at my feet, so if you hear him barking, it's because I've got my shutters open and we're watching the people as they do their Saturday afternoon walks. It's about 12:30 in the afternoon here in Pensacola, Florida. I don't know what time it is out there, but please sign in and say hello. Now, what are we going to do this afternoon? If you looked at my last live video, I provided some steps on doing these cards here, these wonderful cards, using this Timeless Tropical stamp set, and it comes out of the bundle from the mini catalog. And here it is. So I'm going to go ahead and switch to my desktop view, and let's kind of talk about some more stamping, because what I want to demonstrate are options for coloring these wonderful hibiscus flowers. And then we're going to make a couple of cards, because I just want you to not be intimidated by the stamp set. I think this has a lot of really good possibilities, so I want to show you some ideas so that you can take advantage of them. All right, so let me go ahead and give me a moment while I move my cursor, and we are going to transition to my desktop, and I should be there now. And hopefully you can hear me. Go ahead and switch. Okay, you can hear me. All right, so I am on my desktop now. And here are the cards that I did on my last tutorial. Here's the stamp set, and these are the cards I showed you that I made, and I kind of stamped that background. Maybe if I have some time, we can go ahead and do something like that. And I showed you this card, but these are the cards I want to focus on. Here's another one using kind of the mangy-pangy. But the ones I really want to focus on for this hour, for this session, is I really like these hibiscus. And I'm going to kind of set these like this because I use several techniques to color these cards. And I was particularly interested in how they did this flower here on the in the catalog. And I'm going to move in because I want to kind of talk about this one for a minute. So you can see that it's very, very subtly colored, and it kind of has a dark spot around the middle of the flower where this little piston comes out of the flower. I think that's the proper name for it. I don't remember my botany, but you're welcome to correct me if you're out there and you happen to know. But I was really, this really intrigued me. So I started out, this was my first card where I just basically took several colors and I kind of stamped one on top of the other, and then I think I used a couple of stamping blends to kind of give me a little bit of shading. Rocky, it's okay, settle down. And then this here is supposed to be that piston or that stamen, because what I was trying to do is I was trying to get some separation so it just didn't blob in. And let me show you some other. So I colored this one. I basically colored this using a yellow, and I believe I used crushed curry, and then I used my stamping blends to kind of color around the edge. And I believe I just basically stamped this using espresso, early espresso. So you can kind of see how dark it is there in the center, and it really doesn't have the definition of what this really is. It looks very blobby, okay? Here's another one I stamped, and I used some of my stamping markers to kind of try to darken this area, and I was going to do the same thing. I was going to cut out a little stamen or piston there, and I was going to paste it in there, much like I did for this one. I also, after I used the dye, is I kind of separated the petals, and you can kind of create a nice little, a really pretty flower. And if we put these together, you could have a really nice little 3D effect, or a flower if you wanted to build a bouquet. So that's another way that you can use this this stamp set. So there's two options. These are my early, kind of exploring and doing a little bit of experimentation. So this was my first card. I also stamped it using, I believe it was Old Olive, and then I colored it with a stamping blend. I colored the leaf, and then I kind of used a piece of sponge to kind of do my edges. And this is a very simple card. I used the wonderful embossing folder, and I just embossed it using the crumb cake. Here's that really nice braided twine or braided burlap. And then again, I used this wonderful So Sentimental bundle, these beautiful dies, and I've used them pretty consistently with the last couple of cards because I really think they're a keeper. They're something you should consider adding to your cart. And you can always go to my stampartconnection.com and make a purchase if you don't have a demonstrator, or if you need a demonstrator. If not, I just want to help and be able to kind of keep you motivated in crafting while we're in this social distancing through crafting. Okay, so here's my stamp set. Let me show the next step. So here's the next kind of sample that I did as I'm kind of trying to explore and figure out how I did this. Now this is that deep set die technique that I showed in my previous video, and we're going to do that again here. And here I again used just this kind of calypso coral, and then I used my stamping blends to kind of blend this in. Now this dark color right here, and again I'm just going to kind of move in because I think this is the secret to doing this card, is I took a watercolor pencil of Early Espresso, and I went in and I just kind of colored around the base of the stamen and kind of outlined it a little like this. And I did all this after I put the card together because I'm going to show you the coloring technique using both the just stamping and stamping blends and the coloring technique using these watercolor pencils without any watercolor. Okay, so then I thought that really made that flower pop, and it was really made a big difference, and it really matched. And let me just throw in, it really matched what they did in the catalog, and that's what I'm trying to do. Is I'm trying to match and come up with a technique that they used in the catalog, so that you can use it when you have the set. Okay, I also took some of the braided burlap, and I used the little aloha that I cut out of a, what did I cut? I cut this out of a piece of the Grapefruit Grove foil. Okay, and I want to show you another one that I did. Let me see if it's, I think it's over, where is it? Oh, here it is. Let me show you this one. This one I did, and this is Grapefruit Grove. Let me pull out because I want to kind of show you. This one's Grapefruit Grove that I thought kind of went with the flower. You can kind of see how pretty that is. Okay, this one I did with the copper foil that I thought kind of went with this bronzy little leaf. And this is one of the ones that I did in my last video. Okay, so I'm just, as I work with these, I'm kind of experimenting and coming up with some ideas for you. Okay, so this is the technique that I'm also going to show you how to do, and this is all done with watercolor pencils, and they are the watercolor pencils that, and I think I marked them here. They are the watercolor pencils that you can find in the annual catalog right here on page 179. Okay, because they have two sets here. You have assortment 1 and assortment 2. I have both sets, and they're wonderful. I love them. So so those are the pencils that I'm going to use. And I also want to bring your attention to this background. This background pops, and it's very different from that background. So that's another thing we're going to do here. So you're going to need the embossing folder that comes with this suite, and here it is. And you're going to need some crumb cake, and you're going to use some crumb cake ink. Right here, we're going to use some crumb cake ink because we're going to do the technique where you basically put the ink inside the folder and fold it over, and it just really gives this really nice texture, makes that pop. Okay, so this is the card we're going to do. I'm going to show you several stamping and coloring techniques, but this is the one that I really want to focus on. So we're going to go from kind of like easy to more difficult. All right. So let me pull out, and let's go ahead and start with stamping our flower. Now I'm using, and we're going to stamp leaves as well. Now I'm using my Stamparatus because, as you can see how easy it is to set up. I have my 2 plates right here. I have my my cardstock, and let me just kind of rearrange things here. I have my cardstock, and my plate is designed so that I'm pretty much have that right at the where I want to stamp that, kind of in the middle of my cardstock. So that's why I haven't really moved it. I'm going to go ahead and put my magnets down, and I'm going to start out with a with Calypso Coral. Now I have, sorry about that, I have kind of these colors that I've selected to do this card. So let me show you where I'm going with this. So if I start out with this card, I'm going to use the Calypso Coral, kind of the, or rather the Rococo Rose. I'm using the darker color, or this is Terracotta Tile. I'm using the darker color for the outside of my stamp. So let's go ahead and do that. And I really want to show you this one. Okay, this is the thing. So I'm using ricotta tile, and I'm just going to go ahead and close it right there. Okay, let's make sure I get that. Okay. So now I'm going to take my I'm going to take some of my stamping blends, and the stamping blends I'm going to use are going to be, so let me put this aside because that one's done. Now I'm going to take my next one, and this is the one that I'm going to do that we're going to use for the pencil. And I'm going to clean off my stamp, and I'm going to use just a yellow color right here, and I believe I'm using crushed curry. I want to make sure that's centered, and it is, and I'm just going to use crushed curry. Oh, I don't like that. I'm going to turn this around. That is too dark. Now let me see, where is my, I think I went and I used Flirty Flamingo. I didn't like the way that kind of blobbed out. And I'm kind of trying to do this kind of light. Yeah, you see that? That's very light. And that's kind of what I want to use for my, my pencil coloring. Oh boy, Rocky sees activity in the sector. This is my old, crushed curry. This is a really old pad, and I think I'm going to replace this with a new pad because these are the new pads that Stampin' Up! Came with, and you can see it really had a nice even, the ink went on really evenly, and this thing is just very blobby, and it's old. I think I got this one, must be 3 or 4 years old. So if you have any issues with your old stamp pads, then it's not a bad idea to replace it. Okay, so now I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to take another piece of cardstock, and I have my leaf. Now for my leaf, I'm going to use Pear Pizzazz, because that is a very, very light color. And what I like about my Stamparatus is that I can put this here, and let me move my paper. Okay, and I can stamp there. Let me just go ahead and stamp it up. Okay, and then I'm going to move it, and then I can stamp here. And there we go. Let me get this out of the way. And I have 2 leaves that now I can color. So I have my flowers stamped. My flowers and my leaves stamped. Okay, so then let's go ahead. And I always store my plates. I take my plates off and I store them face up like that. And I can just put them aside, and I'm ready to go on to my next step. And you can see all my little pieces and parts that I have on my desk because I have been stamping madly for the week. Okay, so now we're going to, I'm going to pull out what I stamped, and we're going to do the coloring. The first coloring I'm going to do, and this is the one that was done in terracotta tile, is I have my stamping blends, and I have light and dark Daffodil Delight. So I'm going to take my light, and I can pull in so you can kind of see what I'm doing. But you know, this isn't something that is like you have to do it this way. Okay? I just want to give you some options because I think this is a really nice set, and some people are a little intimidated when it comes to coloring. In fact, I know some people that don't like to color at all. And I think that coloring really makes something pop really nicely, and it can really make a difference. Now I'm taking the dark and I'm just kind of going in like this around the edge, all right, and kind of filling in from the middle and kind of going out like that. And you can kind of see how that creates really a nice effect already, just in itself. Isn't that pretty? Okay, and then I have my little stamen right there. I'm sorry, I have to reach over and close this. And then I think this is Flirty Flamingo. No, this is Calypso Coral. I love Calypso Coral for this card. So I'm going to take some light Calypso Coral, and you know, again, I'm just going to kind of put it in there, kind of around just some of these veins, maybe along the edge of this flower. And it's very loose. It doesn't have to be very exact. Now I'm taking my light one, because now I'm just simply, and I'm going to take my pen in, and I'm just simply going to blend this a little. I mean, that's the nice thing about blends, is now I can kind of blend some of these kind of like these heavy lines, and you can kind of see it starts to kind of blend into the flower petal. The colors kind of blend. If you ever buy stamping blends, I would recommend that you always buy at least 2 sets of kind of like these main especially your light colors, because you are going to use them more than your dark colors, because your light colors are the ones that are going to kind of cover your image. So I hope that's helpful. Now, what I'm going to do to show you how we're going to step this up is I'm going to take my brown pencil, and I'm going to go right around here, and I'm just very lightly just going to kind of color around the base of where this stamen should be. And I'm just going back and forth, and if I need to get closer, I will, because I just want you to see the technique. I'm just going back and forth with my pencil. I'm kind of going up the stalk like that, and then I'm just going to kind of go around this this stamen. Okay, and I'm just kind of going around, and I just kind of want a little bit of a shadow back here, and look at that just pops right out. And you can continue to kind of spread that color, kind of blend that color with your pencil, because you're kind of pressing down a little harder right about here, and then you're kind of going a little lighter as you kind of fan out. And that's all it is. It's just this kind of stroke. That's all it is. And there you go. Now, your flower is done. Doesn't that look pretty? That looks really gorgeous, and now your whole flower pops. It's not like a blob. All right, so now let's take our other flower, and this is the one that I stamped using, I believe it was the Flirty Flamingo. And I'm going to pull in my example here. Okay, so here's my example, and here's how we're going to work this. Now, when you study this flower, you're going to see that we're going to need our brown. So I'm going to pull out my early espresso. And let me just pull out so you can see my colors. I have my colors kind of lined up over here. And I believe I have them from both sets. I believe I pulled one out of this set, and I want to say it must be, I'll figure it out here in a minute. Okay, these are the colors I'm going to use for the leaves. And for the leaves, I'm using Garden Green and Old Olive. So I'm going to put those there. For my flower, for this outside rim, I have used Melon Mambo, okay? And then I go in with Daffodil Delight, which is my yellow. Okay, the inside of my flower is going to be Calypso Coral and Pumpkin Pie, and then here's my black, which is kind of being for kind of outlining my flower. All right, so let me come back in and let's go ahead and work on this technique. Okay, so hopefully you can hopefully you can see both flowers, and I'm going to put them on the same axis, and I think that you can see them. All right, so I started out with the Melon Mambo, and all I did, and it's that same stroke, and it's a light stroke, it's not a heavy stroke, so we're just going to kind of like, you know, gently kind of coloring it along the edge. And we're just going to kind of, and it could be kind of like a circular stroke, because I just want that nice, you know, edge of color. And we're just going to go around and around. I hope, is there anybody out there? Who's out there? Hilda, thank you for joining. And thank you for sharing that you love my videos. That makes me feel really, really good. And I've done more live videos now that we're in kind of the, you know, this series of social distancing through crafting. And I'm kind of doing that on purpose, because it's helping me quite a bit to have that social interaction, because crafting is really kind of keeping me sane. When I'm, you know, here at home. I'm an empty nester, and you know, it can be a bit of a challenge. So you see how I went all the way around, and now I'm just going to kind of put that one down. Now I'm going to get my yellow, and we're going to fill in between the yellow and this what we stamped. And we're just going to go like this, and you can kind of see it kind of begin to develop here. Okay, so we're just going around, and we're just laying the color. And these pencils are actually a very good quality. These are good pencils, because they are very, very smooth for coloring. So you can use them. They're watercolor pencils, so if you add water, you could blend these, but I really don't want to do that, because I didn't stamp this on a watercolor paper. If you wanted to do that, I wouldn't recommend the watercolor paper as much as I would recommend using the shimmery white cardstock. That one can hold water a little bit better. Okay, so you can kind of see where I'm beginning to go. Now I'm going to take my Calypso Coral, and I'm going to kind of just go right on top of this ink here, and I'm going to kind of darken that up a little bit. I'm also going to kind of come into what I stamped right there on those pieces. I'm just going to kind of darken them up a little bit, so you see kind of how I'm going to see how I'm kind of darkening that a little bit. I'm adding a little bit more shadow like that. Okay, and you can see that color. Here's where I haven't colored. Here's where I've colored. So it's actually getting a little deeper, and if you want to press a little bit harder, you can do so. But the point is we're kind of just laying layers. We're laying kind of color on top of color to kind of build this flower's color up. And I'm just kind of sometimes, just kind of going around like that. Okay, so you kind of see how that's been built up. Now I'm going to take the darker color, which is the orange, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just kind of focusing right here, and I'm kind of pushing this out a little bit to where it kind of blends with the yellow, the other color, and then the orange is a little bit darker down in here. See how I'm laying? You see the difference in the color there? It's a little bit darker. And I'm just kind of, so the middle of my flower is kind of got this, kind of working that along the middle. See that? So you kind of see how the middle of the flower has that nice color. And you can pull some of this color out towards your edge of your flower. It's all good. It's all going to work if you just kind of, even if you want to kind of go around the edges. You're kind of building the shadow and building the color. All right? So now this looks kind of a little bit kind of dull. So I'm going to now take my Melon Mambo and I'm going to go around the edge like this. You see how that makes it kind of pop? Yeah, I'm going to go around the edge with the Melon Mambo. Because my Melon Mambo, and I'm pressing hard. I mean, I'm pressing a little bit harder because I'm trying to get a little bit more color. So it's not a shading that I'm doing. I'm actually kind of pressing a little bit to put that accent color, that Melon Mambo. See how pretty on the outside of my flower, kind of like my line. I'm just looking over to see, isn't that pretty? Now, do you see right here where it's kind of dark? I kind of pressed a little bit, and you can do that too. But I would kind of press and put the color so that it's coming up the outside of the petal. It's not going in the center because that's where I have that nice orange. It's going to kind of meet with what I've done on the outside. So you're kind of outlining it with this real pretty Melon Mambo. All right. So isn't that pretty? Okay. So now we're going to take the brown. And in taking the brown, here's our little stamen or piston or whatever you want to call it. And I'm just going to work this brown kind of around. And there we go. I'm working it around the center. Now, having lived on Guam, they didn't have very many of these. These were not wild the way they are in Hawaii. These had to be cultivated. Now look at the difference now. Do you see that flower is starting to pop? And all I'm doing is I'm working this brown just around the edge of this stamen. And then I'm just using these very light little short strokes to kind of pull that color out. And I want the darker color in the middle, and I'm just kind of pulling it out a little bit so it fades. The point is that these flowers, they do have little brown marks on them. So you can pull this brown little pieces of brown along this petal like this. Okay, because you know, these flowers last so long, but when they start to age, they do have little specks of brown that begin to kind of show up in the flower petals as they're sitting out in the heat. So you can kind of add a little bit of that to your flower as you're kind of you know, building it. Now the last piece is I have some black, and the black is the color I'm putting right here in the center. And then I'm just very carefully just kind of walking it up my stamen. And it's not a whole, it's not a lot, but boom. How about that? That is just enough. That is just enough to make that flower pop. Now, I notice I have more color here than I have here. I can always go back. I can always go back and pull in my melon mambo if I want, and just add a little bit more color along the edge of my flower if I want, you know. And this is kind of the, you know, you don't want to add a lot at the beginning. You just kind of want to have a light touch, and then as you finish, then you can kind of go in and then you can kind of see, you know, where do I need a little bit more color to balance. And what I like to do, and this is an artist's trick, is you look at it but you squint, and when you squint, it'll kind of show you what it looks like. And when it kind of disappears and you don't really see, if it squints and it looks good, then you're good. If you squint at it and you see that you can't really see the shape, and it looks a little unclear, then it's like, okay, then you can go back and add a little bit more accent and darken some spots. That's kind of how see, and now I'm just adding, I'm coming in right along this edge, and I'm just adding a darker color, and I'm thickening that line that I had put around it, just so that it just kind of, so they're all the same colors. I've just, you know, we've just kind of laid them in, and I'm turning it this way so you can kind of see, you know, see how I did that. Okay? Now, let's put this aside, because now we're going to do our leaves. Okay? And our leaves are going to be done the same way. I have my two pencils. I have a light, which is my Old Olive, and then I have a dark, and I stamped this with Pear Pizzazz. So again, and I'm just going to put my card back here so you can see how the leaves are done. I'm just kind of going along the edge here with my Old Olive, using that kind of just that shading stroke. And I'm kind of just filling in my leaf. I'm going to do the same over here. Now, it just occurred to me that I don't think I've ever done a video on how to use pencil for coloring. I don't think I ever have. So, and now I'm going back around, but I'm darkening the color that I added, and I'm kind of darkening the edge of my leaf. Okay, I'm just going around the perimeter of my image, and I'm darkening. And if you have any questions, Hilda, ask me. Now I'm following up the veins a little bit. See these veins? I'm just kind of following up the veins. I'm going to do the same here. Just darken the outside of my leaf, and I'm shading it. And then I'm kind of coming up these veins just so that it's got, some definition. And then I'm going to take this darker green, and this is the one that's going to kind of go on the inside. And I'm going to kind of have a light touch with this because it's a different color green. So I'm just kind of shading the inside of my leaf, just to give it just another kind of and I'm just kind of, maybe I'm going to put some accents for the veins. Maybe along the center of my leaf. And then I kind of use a shade, and I'm just kind of using this as kind of a blending. I'm kind of blending color. Okay, so that's a pretty good leaf. Now, there's something I want to demonstrate here. When you're doing coloring with pencil, and I'm going to grab a piece of paper. And I don't think this is white. I think I need a piece of white. Okay, let me just grab, yeah, here we go. Okay, let me show you. When you have a pencil, you can hold the pencil like this, and you can color like this, okay? You can hold the pencil like this, and then you can color it on the side, okay? And you can see you get a different effect on your coloring, whether you've got a broad stroke, and you can, like that, or you have thin strokes. Okay, they're different effects. Now, the other thing is to learn how to use your pencil. When you were in art class, you had to use, like, this is the single stroke, here's a broad stroke, here's a very broad stroke, and then here's a single stroke. Okay? So you would start out, and you would take your pencil, and you would go as lightly as you can. Okay, as lightly as, and then as you went, you put more and more pressure on your pencil until you came up to the point. Now you see that? Do you see how that scale with this one pencil? This is a good pencil. This is a good coloring pencil. If you can do that, then you have a good tool. Okay? The other thing is, again, using the side of the pencil, I'm going to turn my paper like this. I'm going to use these broad strokes, because then we had to do like broad strokes, and it's a single stroke. And you had to have like control of your pencil. And you would do the same thing. So when you were in art class, you would literally, your homework was to turn in a card for each pencil for a grade, because they wanted to see if you were able to to create the scale of color that you would need to do any kind of pencil drawings. Now, I could do the same thing with just lines. And the color of my pencil changes the closer my lines are, and I'm just using lines, and the more I press, look at that, the more I press with the pencil. And that is how I could do, because when you're drawing professionally, you also have to do it in like a crosshatch. There. So there is a crosshatch pattern. And let me just pull in so you can kind of see what I was trying to achieve here, if I can. Okay? So now you can see how you can take one pencil and you can achieve, you know, going from very light to dark. You can use the side of the pencil, you can do a crosshatch, you can use the side of the pencil, or you could use just the tip of the pencil. It's just a matter of how many lines and how hard you're going to press on your pencil. So that is the an exercise, and if you want to play around and do something like that, do that. And that will ensure that you have confidence in your coloring, but you'll also have you'll play with your pencils and you'll kind of get to know them, and you'll know that they're you know, they're your tools, and you will control them, and you will not be afraid of them. Okay, so let's move out, and I'm going to put my pencils away. And now we're going to basically kind of pull in our flowers, and that's what we have. Isn't that pretty? So we're going to build our cards, and I have my cardstock here. I have 2 pieces of Calypso Coral and 2 pieces of crumb cake, and we are going to cut these out first. And this one is going to go deep set. So we're going to do that technique. Let me see. Let's line this up. Okay, see how that's lined up pretty like that? I'm going to have to get a bigger piece. Let's see if I have a bigger piece. No. Okay, I'm going to have to cut a piece of white cardstock for a minute. Hold on. Okay, so let me show you what I want to do. I want to create, hold on, gotta take a sip of coffee. I want to create this card here, okay? And what I need to do that is I need a piece of crumb cake that should be, this piece is too big. This piece of cardstock needs to be, let me look at my, I think I have it right here. Okay. This is my, my matting, proportional matting guide. If you go to my stampartconnection.com, under free tools, you can download this, and then you can print it, and you can put it on your cutting board so you can figure out your proportional matting. So this piece right here is 4 by 5 1/4. I need this to be, you know, starting with the larger, going down to the smaller. Let me come out a little bit more. So starting at the larger, going down to the smaller, I need this to be 5 3 3/4. So let me go ahead and cut this at 5 and 3 3/4. There. Okay. So now this is going to line up with that, but then it covers, you know, my flower is covered. All right, not a big deal, because this is where my white cardstock's gonna come in, because I want a frame, I want a mat of 5 1/4 by 4. So let's cut, let's do it this way, 5 1/4 by 4. Let's cut it this way. All right, so there's 4. Let me put this aside. And then here is 5 1/4, right there. Okay, so now I have my base. I'm going to have my flower, then I'm going to have my top, and then it's going to fit nicely like that. And that is going to go nicely on my color. Okay, so let me go ahead and put in my score line here and make sure I'm not using my cutting blade, but that I'm using my scorer, because that's no fun. I think I'm going to go ahead and score my other one as well, since I have my board here, and I have to think about whether I'm going to need. No, I don't think I need anything for that, because I think that's already. So that one goes with this. This one is going to go. Yes, I am going to need another piece. All right, so bear with me while I cut this one. Let's see, what is this one over here? I got paper all over my work area here. Okay, I need this one to be 5 1/4 by 4. There's my 4. Okay, let me make sure this is 5 1/4. There's 5 1/4. Boom. Okay, so now this piece for my other card is going to go like that, and then this one is going to be 5 by 3 3/4. Yeah, 5 3 3/4, which is going to go right there. Okay, so now I have my dimensions, and I will have all of this in on my blog after I finish making these cards. Okay, so this one is going to be the one that we're going to use for this flower and these leaves. And this one, we're going to do that deep set die, back set die cut for this. Okay, so now having done that, I have my 2 pieces of crumb cake, and I am going to use my folder. Okay, this is my my good old embossing folder. Let me get this out of the way. I'm going to use my embossing folder, and I am going to emboss these. Now I'm not going to do the plain embossing. We're gonna actually do kind of a special embossing where I'm going for this effect right here, right? And this effect is a lot different than just that plain color. I kind of like this kind of woven, you know, beach sheet. The first thing I'm going to do though is, because I'm going to have to wet this cardstock in order to get that effect when I run it through my folder. Since I like this shabby chic look, I'm going to go ahead and do my kind of do my roughing up of my edges now that the card is dry and is stiff, so that I can go ahead and run this over. Because once I wet it and run it through my ink it and run it through my embossing folder, it's not, you can't do this to it. Okay, so you want to do this step first. So I'm just kind of running it across because I kind of like that shabby beach chic look. And because everything on tropical islands, everything's outside, right? They live outside, they have their lanais outside, everybody lives outside. So everything is very weathered from the sea air. It's not, there are no sharp edges. It's very, very weathered. Okay, so now that we've gotten that done, I'm going to take a spritzer here, and I'm using crumb cake ink, okay? And I've got my Big Shot, and I want to show you what plates I'm using with my Big Shot. I am using the Big Shot platform, and I'm using this blue plate that is in the catalog for embossing these kind of folders, all right? It's the only way I can emboss this kind of a folder. So now I'm going to take, I'm just taking it off camera to show you that I'm just kind of got it wet. Okay, my cardstock is wet. That's okay. And then I have my folder, and this is where the Stampin' Up sign is. You have a smooth side and you have a rough side. You want to grab your ink pad and you want to ink this rough side right here. Okay, just like that. Okay. Okay, so I got plenty of ink, and you want to make sure that you have enough. See, I didn't get ink everywhere, so I got to make sure I get it in there because I want this thing. Now, you want to make sure you get ink all the way around so it's going to cover your cardstock, and this one's already starting to dry. So maybe you ink first and then you spray. All right. Now I'm going to lay that there, and you see how my ink totally covers my cardstock like that. Now I roll it through my Big Shot. Now look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? Now if you don't do that, and I don't know, yes. If you don't do that, then you're going to get white spots on your card. But look at that. That is just gorgeous. Isn't that pretty? So now we're going to do the other one. So let's ink up our embossing folder once again. Okay, I'm inking it up. Now I'm going to take my little mini spritzer with water, and I'm going to spray it. Okay, it's nice and damp. I'm going to set it inside my folder, close my folder, and now I'm going to emboss. And look at that. There we go. So let me clean my folder. Isn't that pretty? I think it's gorgeous. And again, these are techniques that you can use that kind of take this whole step, takes this whole bundle to the next level. gives you some really neat techniques and ideas to use that you get the most out of this this set. Oh boy, what does Rocky see? All right. So now what you can do, I'm gonna just I can kind of take my edge here. I'm just gonna kind of dot it like this. See, and it kind of gives me a nice little. I take my fray and I just kind of put some ink. Isn't that kind of pretty? All right. It's okay, Rocky. They're just going for a walk. All right. So now that we've done that, I have this there, and I have this one there. And you know what? I don't know if I can cut this thing now. I don't know if I can cut this if it's wet. I wonder if I messed up. Huh. What do you think? Do you think I should take the risk? Okay, well, let me show you what, let's experiment. I can always do it again. So I'm going to take my plate. I'm going to take my plate and I'm going to put because remember, this fits perfectly like right there. Okay, do you see that? How it fits right over, which is why I like my Stamparatus. And this fits right over, like there it is. See that? That is perfect. It's covered. So I just want to pick this up and I want to lock this down, and this is still damp, so I'm just going to use a very light piece. I'm going to use crumb cake ink very lightly, and I'm just going to stamp, and that's all I want. I just want that very faint outline. Okay. Let's see if this works. If not, I may have to reverse my steps. Okay, so take this out. I'm going to lay it like that, and we're going to put this over here. Now I'm going to grab my dies. Here are my dies. I'm going to grab this die, and I think what I'm going to have to do, just to play it safe, is I think I'm going to turn on my I'm going to kind of dry this paper a little bit. Okay, so the center of that's kind of dry. So now I'm going to line up my die. And there's a little squiggle mark over here that's very easy to kind of line up your die. It's not hard. So that's my die. It's lined up. So let's switch my place because I'm using my Big Shot platform. I have the thin die adapter plate. I have my precision base plate. I love the precision base plate. I'm going to lay it down. And I'm going to it worked. Perfection. All right, look. Look. It's going to work. It's going to work. It's going to work. Look at that. There it is. It worked. All right. Now I see I have a little bit of edge here, which isn't a big deal, because what I can do is I can very easily trim this down, and that's where my little mini trimmer comes in. You just can, trim it down just a tad. Let's see, where does this need to go? A little bit on this side, and just, just a smidge. Not a big deal. Love this thing. Okay, look at that. Isn't that pretty? All right, so let me put my thing back in. Okay, so now we're just going to that is ready to go on. Where did I have it? Where did I have it? This one right here. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? Oh, that's going to be just gorgeous. All right, so the way I do that is I just get some dimensionals, and I'm just going to put dimensionals around the edges of my cardstock right here. And if I need, I don't think I need any small dimensionals. I think these work just fine as long as you kind of put the point right there. You can work very neatly with the big dimensionals. And then I'm going to kind of go out a bit here and here. And we're going to go out a bit here and here, okay? So that will stand up nicely. So let me make sure. All right, so that's lined up like that. So let's go ahead and take off, and I start by taking off the inside dimensionals first. Okay, those are the dimensionals I'm going to take off first. And then I'll work, in other words, I'm just taking off the little sticky things. And then I'll take out the outside ones. And I'll take off these. All right. So that is going to go, and pardon my head if it gets in the way, but I just want to kind of, I'm looking over it so that when I set it down right where I want it. There it is. There it is. Looks good. So now this is going to go on, where is it? Where is it? This is going to go on that. And then it's going to go on this. Okay, and how did we decorate it? Oh, look how pretty that looks. You can see the real difference in kind of getting that effect with the folder. And now that I kind of look at this one and I look at this, I'm going to take my black pencil. I don't think I did this with black, did I? I'm going to have to take my black pencil and I'm going to have to do this. Look, I'm going to have to do this one. Just look right around here because I don't think I did that with this one. Look what a difference it made. Wow, that made a really big difference, just taking that black pencil and kind of putting that around there. Yeah, you see that? I'm just going to kind of... There, that is beautiful. Look at that. That is just, oh, perfection. Perfection. All right, there you go, ladies. And look, it's got a nice edge here. It's kind of, oh, look, I can just kind of run this and just kind of get a little, ooh, that looks nice. Look, I just kind of got that a little bit after going through the, oh, that's pretty. Just kind of get it a little bit more frayed. Oh, I love that look. Okay. So let's go ahead and put this on. Now, I think I mentioned in another video, I'm using tape, tear tape, because I don't want to use glue to mess up my pencil work and my ink work for my drawing. So that's what I recommend. So easy breezy, Just a couple of pieces of tear tape. Are you eating? What are you eating? He likes to eat cardstock, and I have to watch him because the last thing I need to do with all this social distancing is take Rocky to the vet. All right. So I got to keep an eye on him. There we go. Hey, what are you eating? All right, that's fine. Okay. Look at that. That is so pretty. Oh my gosh. All right, let's put that aside and let's, so that's this one, and we're going to embellish it here in a minute. All right. So now we have to take these, and here is our pretty one for this that we did. And we don't have to cut anything on this one, right? The only thing I need to cut now is I just need to use my dies and cut these two out. And let me grab my dies from my folder. And I'm going to grab this die and my leaf die. Okay, so let me do this. And I can do it at the same time. So that is easy. Just kind of do like that. Ouch. Dropped it. Sorry. Line it up. I'm lining it up, lining it up, lining it up. Okay, let me do my leaves. The leaves are kind of tedious because you have to do, 2 leaves. You got to run it through twice. You got to kind of be careful because when my top plate bows, and it gets kind of bowed, when I run my dies through, sometimes it pushes my die off. Okay. See, it kind of pushed my die forward, which is why you have to use tape to kind of hold your die still, because your plates are no longer flat. So, Rocky, don't get behind me. All right, so there you go. Those look pretty good. And you can always kind of trim them. And I think what I like to do is I'm just going to grab, and do I have a sponge? I don't think I have a sponge. But I do have a little piece of tissue that I can use and just kind of let's grab a little piece of tissue and just kind of do your edges. See, that looks fine. All right. Ta-da! Isn't that pretty? That is so pretty. Love it, love it, love it. Did I throw my die in here? Leaf die? Yes. Okay, got all my dies. I have to check that because you know what it's like. If you lose a die, well then you're in a terrible little pickle. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to stamp my sentiment, and I'm going to use, I'm going to use these dies, and I'm going to use, let me find my, I'm going to use these dies. I'm going to use this sentiment, and I think this goes here. So I can use this piece of cardstock. Here's my flower, and the sentiment that I want is already on a block. It's right here. So I'm going to use soft suede instead of a black or brown to stamp this sentiment. Isn't that pretty? Clean that off, put it there. And now I think I'm going to use, now this fits nicely with this one. Okay, it's kind of designed for that one, but you can fit this one on it as well, as long as you line this edge up of your F right there. This one will work. So that's what we're going to do. And that's the stamp set that comes, that is meant for that bundle of framelits. It's the stamp set that I'm using here. I think it's called So Sentimental. Okay, so I'm just going to put my thing back. And there it is. See, if you line up that F with the edge of your framelit, it will work perfectly. Now I have this and this, and I have my two leaves. Now I need an aloha for this one. And again, I'm going to go to my packet of framelits. And I have a piece of bronze or copper foil. Here's my little aloha. I have my copper foil already has some of that sticky stuff on the back. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cut out my aloha. Out of some copper foil. And there it is. And I can go ahead and I have it ready, and I'm just going to put my little aloha. This is my little magnetic plate. I like to put my dies right there so I don't lose them. All right, so for this card, I'm going to take some of my braiding, and I did this for the other card as well. And you know, it's texture. It's not a lot of change in color. It's mostly texture. But if you did want to change color, let me think for a minute. What would we do? Let's see. I have these ribbons that have just come in. I kind of like this ribbon here. I think this ribbon is part of that new set, and I just got these ribbons in the mail. It goes with that brand new Ornate Frames bundle. But I think this will go really nice and kind of offers another option. I'm trying to break this piece of plastic here. How's that? That's pretty. I kind of like that. Why don't we do that? So let me just go ahead and cut. Why don't we cut that? Let me get a better pair of shears. Let me just try to cut this and kind of make a bit of a flag out of it. Yeah, that kind of works. So we just kind of, again, kind of go up the middle, and you turn it around, and then you go to the corner and then go up the middle on the other side. See, and you get kind of a nice little pennant look. And that fits nicely there. So I am going to want to use, and I like to grab my silicone mat here, because when I grab my silicone mat, I can put glue on stuff and it won't get all over my other. Okay, so there is that. I'm going to grab my Aloha, and I'm going to need my little pincer here to carefully push. And I'm not trying to stick this through these itty bitty little holes, because then you cause a hole in your foil. So you don't push this into these itty bitty little holes here. You kind of use the side of it to kind of push it through. And see, that wonderful stuff just peels right off. And now I can put Aloha right there. That looks really pretty. And then I'm going to grab a little, I think I'm just going to grab a little pineapple, because pineapple is the symbol of welcome in whaling communities and on the islands. And I don't know if you knew the story of why the pineapple is the symbol of welcome, but back in the day during the whaling seasons, look at that, it's gorgeous. Back in the day during the when the whalers would return from their travels, because they were often gone for a year or so, and they were home, they would usually bring home delicacies from their travels, especially if they traveled to any of the islands. And when they did that, what they did is they would put a pineapple and stick it on the gate of their homes, skewer it on the front gate where the gate posts were, and it was a symbol to everyone in the town that the captain of the ship had returned, and that the house was open to greet visitors. So that is why the symbol is the pineapple is a symbol of welcome and aloha. So there is that card. Isn't that gorgeous? So now here was our my sample card, and you can really see the difference when you kind of distress that paper using your embossing folder and the ink. It looks much, much better. I really like that. Okay, so now let's put this card together. And again, I'm using a Calypso Coral. And we're going to do the same thing. This is going to go nicely on this Whisper White. I'm going to use my little tool here, because I really want this to be nicely distressed to kind of give it that neat feeling. And you can see where if I had not done this first, there is no way I could, create the same effect. This simply just helps to kind of make it seem even a little bit more weathered, which is really what I want. Look at that. That's going to look really pretty right there. So I'm going to grab some glue, and we're going to glue this. And I'm not going to put the glue all the way to the corners. I want the middle, because I really like the corners to kind of curl up a little bit. All right, Rocky, I know. All right, so we're going to just center that there. See, and I don't mind my corners kind of curling up. I think that adds a lot of character to the card. See that? Isn't that pretty? Oh my goodness. Who do you see out there, Rocky? Okay, so here is where my sentiment is going to go. And this is where my flower is going to go. It's going to go right here. And I'm going to use this wonderful braid right here. So I'm going to cut this. And I'm going to pull this apart. I really like pulling it apart and getting it nice and frayed. Let me look out the window and see, what is he looking at? I think he can look across and see another dog. He can see the dogs in the other yard. So he gets all excited. But it's gotten a little overcast. I think we might get some rain. My heart goes out to all those that were affected by the tornadoes. We were watching them the other day as they were kind of moving across the country. I guess I'm kind of in a tropical mood, but when we were on Guam, we lost our house to a typhoon. So I know what that devastation can mean to you and your family. Okay, look how pretty that is. So that's how I want that. I just really want that kind of, look at that. I just want to kind of just fray that up. Okay. And then I'm going to grab my silicone mat. I'm going to lay this upside down. I'm going to use my snail, and I'm just going to press and try to get some glue. And when I do that, what happens is that it opens, it closes up. So I got to kind of play with it again and open it back up. Now, if you can't seem to get enough glue on it, and there I did, you know, I've got enough, you can always use mini glue dots. So I'm just going to put that one right there like that. You see how pretty that is? This really has a really nice kind of beachy look. So this is going to go right here. So that's kind of where you want to put your elements first. You want to put your sentiment and your kind of your braiding down first. And I'm just going to grab my dimensionals and center them where you want them on the face of your card. Okay? Once you've done that, okay, we're going to turn it like this. Once you've kind of done that, and that's pretty much, you know, this is where, you know, this is where I want it. Then I'm going to go ahead and place my flower. And you want to place your flower first. And I kind of like having the stamen kind of coming up like that. I think that looks really pretty. I don't mind having the white around it. I think the way I think it's fine the way the die cuts it. I think it adds, I'm just trimming a little piece. I think it adds a really nice frame to the card or to the flower. Here it's a little off. I'm just going to kind of cut those two pieces, but I think it looks really nice, and I kind of like the stamen to be up rather than down. So I think that's kind of like the right orientation, I think, for the flower. Or you could even do it up like that if you wanted to. Okay, so now I'm going to get some more glue dots, and then I'm just going to glue these on. And I'm kind of gluing these around because I think my ribbon's going to run. And I'm using kind of that corner. I'm going to fit it right there so it's nicely in that corner. Pulling off my glue dots. My dimensionals. Okay, so it's looking up, right? And I'm just going to kind of move it so that it kind of fits nicely right there in that corner. Okay, so now that's a very well balanced card. Now I'm just going to stick my leaves like that, and we're done. And you can use a glue dot if you want. You could use glue. I'm just going to throw a glue dot on them and just pick this up and stick it right there. And I'm going to pick a glue dot here, and I'm just going to, a dimensional, and I'm just going to pick this one up and stick it and kind of stick it out a little because I want to fill that space. But there you go. And now let's go ahead and put it on our cardstock. And again, I'm going to use my glue. And this one I'm going to put all the way to the corner because I want this to be it's kind of a little bit of a heavy card because I've got, we've got several layers of paper. We have a heavy ribbon on there, so turn it around. Okay, now for the inside of the card, when you grab a couple of pieces of cardstock, all right, so this is going to go on the inside of the card. So what I did with that is, again, I'm taking my embossing folder, and give me a moment while oh, here it is. I'm going to take my embossing folder and I'm just going to emboss the sides, right? I'm going to run that through. I wish I could do it this way, but it doesn't fit on my machine. Well, I guess I could do it that way. Let me see what happens. Anyway, I'm going to run it through the embossing folder so that I create a border. So let me do that, and then we'll be done, and I will be so happy to have crafted with you this afternoon, and happy that you joined me in my craft room. Okay, hold on, let me get this straight. There we go. To enjoy some crafting. Now this one I'm just going to leave like that because it's on the top. And let's see, how does this one open up? How does this one open up? This one opens up like this. Okay, so that one, oh, this one would look good. Look, we take this one, it opens up like this, and we put this along the side like that. See, that would be pretty, right? And then this one, it opens up like this. We could put something on the side as well, or we could put it on the bottom. And I'm just trying to get this lined up while I'm here off camera. So I appreciate your patience because it's, this isn't really working. It keeps slipping. The paper has to slip. It's slipping out of the embossing folder, and it's cattywampus. And I'm trying to get a clean, okay, this one was fine. I was trying to get a clean edge so that it's lined up nicely. So just going to go ahead and throw some glue on the back of this one. So I have this one opens up, and that one has a very nice design element right there on the side. Okay, you can see how pretty that looks. Okay. And then this one is going to have the design element on this side. Now this one has a little bit of ink on it from the embossing folder because it wasn't exactly totally clean, but I got it off, okay? So you have to make sure, you can see how it's got ink right there. You have to make sure when you use your embossing folder and you've inked it up, oh, listen to you, that you clean your embossing folder because it will stain any other cardstock that you will, put in there. So then this one, I kind of like this one on this end, like this. There you go. Okay, so we have put together cards using the Timeless Tropical, the Oasis bundle. The bundle includes the this wonderful embossing folder, the stamps and dies, this beautiful braided trim. This ribbon is from the new heirloom. It's the ornate die set, Rocky set, but I thought it went nicely with the foil Aloha there, and how I changed up the ink, and if you can really see the difference of doing the embossing with the ink. Really creates a nice, really nice background. So hopefully you've gotten something out of this. Please like and share. Go to my stampartconnection.com blog, where I will now feature this on my blog with all the dimensions and all the products and links if you to my online store if you want to purchase. Thank you so much. Stay well. This is Kat Chancellor, stampartconnection.com and Stamp Art Connection. Happy stamping.